Hi everybody, it's Zamile. I chose to give a video presentation because I felt like a slideshow is just what I do all day, every day teaching. So I decided to do something different and do a video. Okay, so my title says a lot about my topic. It's actually Giving College Sports a Bad Name, the Cost of Keeping College Sports Alive. And being that we are in grad school, like pro sports people, I felt like I should challenge myself by tackling something that I find discrepancies in, I guess you could say, when it comes to sports finance. What I talk about in the research paper is about how several people have tried to find out why a lot of athletic departments are having to, or purposely, or accidentally digging into the pockets of the academic sector of a lot of universities. So, I did a little research. I found quite a few um, peer review journals and some articles, and I narrowed it down to five that I felt like hit the topics that were most important to me. I think that this will help me in my future in my career, because it not only lets me see the positive side, but it also help me see the negative side of being involved in athletics. Because I'm going to start with the story of myself. A lot of people don't know I went to LSU. I ran track there, and I was on the outside looking in for so long. But rumor had it LSU was a um, self-funding department of athletics, one of the biggest schools in the country. And come to find out, like, we get a lot of our money from the state. We get a lot of our money from the actual students that go to LSU. So when I found that out, it sparked an interest in me to where I wanted to figure out, hey, why does LSU, with all this paraphernalia that I see them selling, tickets, the stadium stays packed. It's one of the biggest college stadiums in the country. And with everything else that goes on campus, why are we still needing to borrow money? So that was my main focus. So the first thing I go into is my literature review, where I find evidence where it's talking about there's actually an act. It's called the Equity in Athletics Disclosure Act. I discuss, where there has been put into place a system supposedly to monitor the spending of athletic departments, and it's not working very well apparently, because according to some of my sources, they're spending money that they don't really even have yet. And the messed up part about it is, a lot of the schools with the most top, like, ranked, we're getting our money from some other than somewhere from the sports world. They're like the worst schools when it comes to competition. Like, it's Arlington, the University of Arlington, Texas in Arlington, UTA. They pay like $1,500 a year just to the athletic department. It's like you're paying just to say you have an athletic department. And I find that absurd, and I find it ridiculous. But at the end of my research, I found that there is a way to avoid this whole arms race. It's like people are competing to compete in athletics. It's like, oh, our facilities are better. It's like all about recruiting, and oh, we have to have the best stadium, and it'll recruit the best athletes. And there's all these non-financial promises that they're giving the stakeholders and students to justify this money that they're charging them. It's like, oh, well, it'll bring in more students, it'll bring in more business to the community, and it'll bring in this and that. And through the studies, I find that those promises are minorly, like, attained. They're not realistic. They don't. outweigh the cost of what we're trying to do as athletic departments, the facilities that we build. It's just not a big payoff for it. So in the end, I totally agree with one of the authors when he says, I'm gonna go ahead and quote him in my video because I thought it's very important. He says that if all athletic departments were to simultaneously reduce and cap spending at exactly the same, college outcomes would be achieved in quantity and quality. So I think what it is that we're overspending, digging into these regular students. I hate to say regular students, but that's what we called them in college when I was in athletics. Pockets for no apparent reason. Like, we can operate without it being so commercialized and so flashy and so expensive. And I think my main concern and my main reason in investigating this was that I feel like maybe sometimes the NCAA has forgotten why this whole thing started. Why we're an amateur athletic department. Like, it's in the, bylaws that we're amateurs. That's why we don't get paid. That's why athletes don't get paid. So it's turning into a commercialization where they're digging in to get money where they have no business going and have no need to go. So if you want to read my paper, I'm going to upload it into ResearchGate. If you don't follow me already, I did my last research paper like that as well. I think I uploaded it correctly. But I think it's a twist on what most people probably would write about. It's almost negative, but not really, because it would be something that I definitely would want to fix, because I have a lot of friends that weren't athletes. I have a lot of kids that I teach today that I don't want to like get discouraged because they're paying a $700 a semester stadium fee when their football team sucks. I mean, it's just so many things wrong with where funding is coming from, I think, and where the spending is going. Nobody's tracking it. So that was my big deal, and that's what I wrote about in my research paper. And it is pretty valid, and it is pretty shocking, and it is pretty scary, actually, that a lot of my kids are going to have to deal with the fact that their school has an athletic department, and they're gonna have to pay for it if they keep spending like they do. If you have any questions, reply. If you want a copy, I can send it to you. I think I ran over time, but I thought it was important that you got the whole spiel so I wouldn't get judged too bad about me kind of going negative with my research. But I was curious. Have a good night.